She didn't disrespect me by accident for those days. She did it because I allowed it.
I used to think that in a marriage, respect was just part of the package. Something that came naturally, something you never had to demand or defend. I really believed that love was enough to make everything work. I was wrong. The night it all changed started like any other evening. We were out with a small group of friends, all familiar faces, sharing laughter that, looking back, felt more rehearsed than genuine. My wife had picked the restaurant, one of those trendy places where people go to be seen, not necessarily for the food. I didn't think much of it. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. From the moment we sat down, something felt off. She was speaking louder than usual, laughing a little too hard, and she kept interrupting me every time I tried to speak. At first, I just brushed it off. Maybe she was in a bad mood or stressed from work. So I stayed quiet, put on a polite smile, and tried to be the bigger person. Then the jokes started. They were subtle at first, just little comments disguised as humor. Remarks about how slow I was to respond or how simple my job was compared to others at the table. Each time she said something, she'd glance around to see who laughed. And they did. Not a big roar, but a quiet chuckle that was enough to sting. I could feel my chest tightening, but I told myself not to overreact. Making a scene would only make things worse. I thought being silent was a form of dignity. I didn't realize that my silence was exactly what she had grown comfortable abusing. As the evening went on, her words got sharper. She started telling a story about a work dinner and casually mentioned how her boss handled things like a real man, then looked directly at me with a smirk. The table went quiet for a moment, then someone let out an awkward laugh. My wife just smiled, pleased with herself. That was the moment I understood something truly painful. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't stress. This was deliberate. She enjoyed having the upper hand. She enjoyed watching me shrink in front of other people. And worse, she had become confident that I would do absolutely nothing about it. I looked at her, really looked at her, and it hit me how long this had been going on. The constant belittling at home, the dismissive tone, the way my opinions were treated, like they were just an inconvenience. I had ignored all of it because I loved her. I had normalized disrespect because I was terrified of conflict. The waiter arrived with our food, breaking the tension. As the plates were set down, my wife leaned back in her chair and said, loudly enough for the nearby tables to hear, "Honestly, if I didn't push him, nothing would ever get done. He needs direction." Something inside me just snapped. Quietly, but completely. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't slam my hand on the table. I simply put my fork down and spoke calmly. "You're right," I said. "I do need direction." And tonight gave me plenty. Everyone looked at me, surprised. My wife's smile froze on her face. I continued, "I've spent years thinking that patience was strength. But I've learned that patience without respect is just slow self-destruction." She tried to laugh it off. "Oh, please, don't be so dramatic." I turned to the others at the table. Have you ever noticed how jokes are only funny when everyone is laughing? When one person keeps being the punchline, it stops being humor and starts being cruelty. No one said a word. The silence in that moment felt heavier than any argument ever could. I looked back at my wife. "You mock me because you think I'm weak. But strength isn't loud. It isn't about humiliating your partner to feel important. Real strength is knowing when it's time to walk away from disrespect." Her face flushed, her amusement replaced by anger. "So what, you're going to embarrass me now?" I stood up. "No, I'm going to stop embarrassing myself." I placed some cash on the table, enough to cover my meal, and picked up my jacket. My hands were steady, but my heart was pounding. "I won't stay where I'm treated like a joke," I said. "Not in public. And not in private." She called after me, her voice sharp and defensive, but I didn't turn around. Walking out of that restaurant felt like stepping into cold air after being suffocated for years. For the first time in a long, long time, I could finally breathe. That night, I didn't go home. I stayed at a friend's place and just stared at the ceiling, replaying everything. The signs had been there for years, and I had ignored them because leaving felt harder than enduring the pain. I finally understood that staying was costing me my self-respect. Over the next few days, reality set in. She sent texts filled with apologies mixed with blame. She said I was being too sensitive, that I had overreacted, that I had embarrassed her. Not once did she ask me how I felt, and that told me everything I needed to know. When we finally spoke face to face, I was calm. I told her I needed space, not as a punishment, but for clarity. I told her I wasn't interested in being with someone who needed to step on me just to feel tall. She cried. She promised to change. But promises without accountability are just noise. I told her that respect isn't something you just switch on when you're afraid of losing someone. It's something you have to practice every single day. I don't know what the future holds for us. But what I do know is that I will never again confuse love with tolerance for disrespect. I learned that standing up for yourself doesn't make you cruel. It makes you honest. That night at the restaurant didn't ruin my marriage.